Despite U.S. President Donald Trump's claims that Ukraine is not in a very good position, Ukrainian troops are counterattacking in several important areas of the front, writes military observer David Axe in Forbes. A few months ago, the Russians did have the advantage, but that is no longer the case, Axe says. In and around Toretsk in eastern Ukraine, he says, the Ukrainians are counterattacking and pushing back into the city. The analyst recalled that at the beginning of February the Russians announced the capture of the city, but, he writes, Russian control over it did not last long. 2 weeks after the Russians had completely occupied the ruins of Toretsk, the Ukrainians counterattacked, and quickly advanced back into the city, Axe said, adding that he learned about this by accident. According to him, a Russian military blogger published a video allegedly about an unsuccessful counterattack by the Ukrainian armed forces on American armored vehicles on the outskirts of Toretsk. In fact, the Observer writes, the video shows Ukrainian troops in the center of Toretsk, and not just in the border zone, as the Russian claimed. In fact, the video the blogger posted alongside his missive revealed Ukrainian troops in central Toretsk, and not just in the border area, as the Russian claimed. A week later, western Toretsk was again contested, according to the definitive Ukraine control map. And it was possible a few Russian troops were clinging to an exposed salient jutting into the urban no-man's land. Fighting continues in the city center, and the enemy is losing control, the Estonian analyst War Translated noted. There are reports of complete encirclement of Russian occupiers in several areas. In pushing back the Russians, the Ukrainian brigades around Toretsk, including the 92nd Assault Brigade and the 100th Mechanized Brigade, joined sister units that recently successfully counterattacked on the eastern edge of the 250 square mile salient Ukrainian forces occupy in western Russia's Kursk Oblast. Axe also cited data from Estonian analyst War Translated, who reported that fighting continues in the center of Toretsk, the enemy is losing control, and there are reports of the complete encirclement of Russian occupiers in several areas. The analyst recalled that Russian troops in Ukraine recently changed their priority to the Toretsk axis after they were recaptured from the fortress city of Pokrovsk, and that this, he says, is especially offensive to the occupiers. Even reinforced by troops transferred from the Pokrovsk axis, the Russian regiments in and around Toretsk are retreating, the Observer writes. A mining city with a pre-war population of 35,000, Toretsk is important. It straddles high ground overlooking important supply lines threading along the Ukrainian side of the front line. It's true that Ukraine has struggled to mobilize enough infantry to keep its best brigades fully manned. But it's not true that Ukrainian forces are getting buried. In fact, in recent weeks they've advanced in at least as many sectors as they've retreated. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Sunday stressed his continued support for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukraine. I stand with Volodymyr Zelensky and I stand with the people of Ukraine, he told reporters after attending a summit in London with European leaders to shore up support for Zelensky after an astonishing Oval Office meltdown with President Donald Trump that left many uncertain where the once staunch allies stood. I have continued to emphasize to him that Canada will always stand with Ukraine. According to Associated Press, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Europe must take responsibility for defending itself as world leaders met to discuss working together to stop Russia's war in Ukraine. Starmer said Britain, France and Ukraine have agreed to work on a ceasefire plan to present to the United States. Starmer pledged to supply more arms to defend Ukraine, announcing that the UK will use £1.6 billion in export financing to supply 5,000 air defense missiles.
Obviously, I have spent a lot of time with Volodymyr Zelensky over the past years. We had a great sit-down just last week when I was, few days ago, when I was in Kyiv to talk exactly about how much Canada stands with Ukraine unequivocally and always, and how much we stand and support him personally as a president, as a leader, as someone who has devoted himself to protecting Ukrainians and indeed protecting the principles and rules that underpin all of our democracies. I have continued to emphasize to him that Canada will always stand with Ukraine. On Friday in the Oval Office, President Zelensky pointed out in so many words that Vladimir Putin is a liar and a criminal and cannot be trusted to keep his word in any way, shape, or form, because he has demonstrated time and time again that he will break any agreements. I stand with Vladimir Zelensky, and I stand with the people of Ukraine.
On the road.
Every step of the way, Canada has looked at the ways it can best help. And as I've said a few days ago, everything's on the table. We know that the Canadian military has ways that it can contribute. We're not going to get ahead of the discussions on how to keep a peace that isn't yet in place. But Canada will be there and is open to doing what is necessary, but those will be decisions taken in the coming years by Canadians and their government.
Demonstrators gathered outside a Tesla showroom in Boston on Saturday to protest against U.S. President Donald Trump's administration and the company's founder Elon Musk. Trump is the president, but billionaire Musk was the focus for activists as they demonstrated against the Trump administration's push to gut federal health, education, and other agencies. According to Associated Press, Musk has been tapped to spearhead cuts to the federal government. The message today is to stop Elon, stop this terrible tearing up of our government and get things back to normal, said Karina Campobasso, a retired federal employee. This government, led by Trump and Musk, it's gone completely off the rails and we are here to stop that. Trump has defended the cuts as necessary to eliminate waste and fraud. And he has praised Musk's work with his Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, saying it has found shocking evidence of wasteful spending. He signed an executive order expanding Musk's influence. Musk, meanwhile, has defended the swift and extensive cuts he's pushing across the federal government while acknowledging there have been mistakes. There's a lot of different things that people are doing to stand up against what the Trump administration is doing, said Nathan Phillips, a professor at Boston University participating in the protest on Saturday. But when you do it right in front of a showroom door, that takes it from an expression of opposition to direct action and resistance against Musk and all of the terrible things that he is doing.
It ain't funny. President Musk is stealing your money.